Hello. Today I'd like to go through a bunch of fountain pens made by the company Pen BBS. This is a Chinese company based in Shanghai that's been making fountain pens for a number of years. Oddly enough, I think they are quite well known, but if you search for Pen BBS on Google, you'll only get 5 pages of results, so I don't think they're that well known. I have 8 of their pens, and I bought most of these last year, and I think they're just such excellent pens with a great variety of filling mechanisms and designs. So to start off, I have here a Pen BBS 352. They call this the milky white design. It's an acrylic pen, and if I just sort of show you the external appearance, it's really quite a nice looking pen. It feels very good in the hand. You can see the Pen BBS here, Shanghai, and then the number 352. If we unscrew it, the cap, I had this filled with, I think, the lamy turquoise ink, and I'll use this ink as a demonstration. As you can see, there's a little bit of staining on the grip, and you can even see, I think, a little bit of staining sort of where the liner would be. If I give a bit of a closer look at the nib, this is a round, extra fine nib, and it's got a fancy looking E right here to denote that it's an extra fine. As you can see, it says Pen BBS since 2005 and China, and of course the feed. Unscrewing it, it has a cartridge converter, and this one's essentially empty. I haven't used it for some time, and it's got some dried ink in there as well. I'll show you what the box actually looks like that it came in. So again, this is the Pen BBS 352, and so that's the 352 there, and then 0011 is, I think, their way of or their serial number for whichever color this particular pen is in. So it comes in this sort of box, but you sort of slide it out. Let's see if we can slide this one out. A very nice cardboard box. It says Pen BBS embossed at the front. It's got a red cardboard look to it, and then really on the inside there's this foam, and the pen sits in here, and this is also foam at the back, and I think there's a little magnet right here that just shuts it in. So they really come in very nice packaging, and I would find these pens to be quite a decent sort of gift package actually. Put this back. Now this pen, the 352, I got for $30, 30 New Zealand dollars, and I think for the quality that it provides, and a steel nibbed fountain pen, it's a very good price. We're looking similar, maybe slightly cheaper than a Pilot Metropolitan. We'll just dip this one. So this is the Pen BBS 352 in milky white. It has an acrylic body, a round, extra fine nib, steel, and it cost 13 New Zealand dollars. Some downstrokes and upstrokes to right and to left. No skipping. Now the upstrokes are not particularly good, but with such a extra fine nib like this, occasionally you do have issues with ink flow. Let's see if we dip that again. And a test of flexibility. It's a relatively stiff nib without too much flexibility, as you can see, And a test of wetness. And I would say it's a decently wet pen. I think it writes very well for a round extra fine. And really is just a nice pen. So that's the first one of the lot. We'll put this one to the side. The next one I have is this pen right here. So this is the Pen BBS 308. They call it the Tiny Happiness, with a sort of koi carp acrylic appearance to it. This one, I think it looks really quite incredible. A bit of a closer look, it says Pen BBS. And over here I think it says, have I got it right? It says 266. That's a bit unusual because on the order my one said 308. We'll figure out. Anyway, let's unscrew this and have a look. This is a nib. And over here you can sort of see the Pen BBS 2005, Shanghai, China. And in this case, this is a round medium nib, and the M is, I think, shown in that kind of fancy logo. So it's a medium nib. This is also a cartridge converter pen, but it contains an O-ring sitting, what you'll see shortly, right here, which means that you could convert this to sort of an eyedropper. You could fill all of this up with ink and then screw it in, and that O-ring would essentially be able to seal in the ink, but you do run some risk of leakage. Now, I haven't inked this one up for some time. This one I use a special purple Pilot ink. I know perhaps I might have been better to use an orange or red ink given the the colour of this pen. But at the time I decided to use this one here, the Murasaki shikibu. It's a purple ink, and I also dipped this one just to demonstrate. I'll pop that little bubble there. Alrighty, so this is the Pen BBS 308, although looking at this, could it possibly be the 266 in the Tiny Happiness appearance, or the koi carp? It's an acrylic body and a round medium nib steel. Now this one was about 40 New Zealand dollars. Some downstrokes, upstrokes, to the right, to the left, no skipping, and no, well, perhaps this one skipped a bit. Let's see how much flex it has. So it does have perhaps a little bit of flex, but not that significant. And wetness level, again, a similar level of wetness, and I haven't tuned any of these nibs. These are the nibs as they would be coming from the box. This is a very nice pen. The design is excellent. And pop this one to the side. Now the next one I had used as a workhorse pen for quite some time, and my favourite workhorse ink is the Lamy Black. Now this is the Pen BBS 456 in vermouth green, a demonstrator, a clear demonstrator, but it's a vacuum filling fountain pen. And so the kind of comparison probably would be with the Pilot, is it Custom 823, I believe? That's a vacuum filling pen as well. Now, for this one it says Pen BBS 456, Shanghai. We have a closer look at this nib. Now they call it a duocolour fine nib, and you can see it says Pen BBS since 2005. The F right there for fine in China, and duocolour because of course you can see this is a steel nib. They've got a bit of brass or gold detailing in there. The feed. And this one's been slightly empty for some time, and I'll see if I remember how to fill this one, because I'd like to use it as a workhorse pen again. So we've got a inkwell here, unscrew, and I believe what we do is once it's sort of unscrewed and you can feel some movement there, you dip the entire pen in here, holding it still, sucking up like that, I believe. Now I can't remember I don't think there's any locking done, but then we squeeze down to here, and because there's some vacuum that is generated and water forms kind of a seal, once you push it past a certain, I think a valve or a break area somewhere, that vacuum gets broken and it sucks all the fluid back up. Now just quickly see if I can screw the cap back on. Ooh. There we go. Let's see how much it's filled. Now, might need to use something just to give it a bit of a clean. And as you can well see now, that's filled up a decent amount in there. So this will probably last me for quite some time, this amount of ink. So we now have the Pen BBS. This is the 456 in vermouth green demonstrator. I'm not sure, it feels like an acrylic body. And the nib is a duocolour fine nib, steel of course. And now this one cost me about 60 New Zealand dollars, and fair enough given the extra special vacuum filling design. Now some downstrokes and upstrokes, right and left. No skipping, no skipping. A test of flex. I will say this one's quite rigid without that much flex. And the wetness test, again, very similar levels of wetness. These nibs are pretty consistent. So this should probably, I should probably use this pen given they've filled up this much ink. And let's put these to the side. Now the fourth pen that I have is this one right here. And this is one of my more recent workhorse pens that I've definitely been using at work. Now this is Pen BBS, of course, and it's the 355. This is a bulk filler fountain pen with a special sort of piston suction filling design. It's like a piston filler, but it has an unusual locking mechanism which I think allows it to fill a bit more effectively than a standard piston type filler. Anyway, let's have a look. So this one is they call it the Galaxy design, which is a very nice sort of acrylic, and I guess it kind of does look like an outer space sort of, there's a bit of an outer space feel to it. A closer look at this nib, and this one is another round medium nib, and we've seen this one before. It's got that fancy M. It says Pen BBS 2005, And I think if we get even closer, say Shanghai, China, maybe if I cleaned it up a little bit. There we go. You can see a bit clearer there. Feed. A very, very good looking pen. Out of all the ones that I own, I think this one looks the best. And it's probably why I've used this one as a workhorse pen for much longer. Now, I gotta see, now this is the one where I actually use a pen torch to tell how much, because you can't really see, it's not a demonstrator. And the light will go through until such a point where light doesn't go through, and then you can sort of gauge how much ink is left. I might see if I remember how to fill this pen. Now I use, now is this the, yes it is, this is lamy blue black ink, and it kind of matches the appearance of this pen, so I found that to be quite a nice combination. Now with this pen, what ends up happening is you screw this out, and then you can plunge it all the way up here, and then it should lock, I think, at some point. The question is, which side does it lock? I think it locks this way, yep. And now if I actually put this in here, and sort of squeeze it all the way out, now I should be able to suction all of this right up, and I can feel that fluid going up there. Then unlock it by turning here. And by unlocking it, hopefully it means that when I push this back down, it's not going to push the entire piston down again. It will just push this rod down, so it displaces a little bit of ink, but hopefully not all of it. So I've got to be really careful here. So I think there should be, yep, there's some drippage, but not a huge amount. It should displace just the amount of the rod. And if I've done this right, and I hope I have, we can get that pen torch again. Now, well, I think we can probably demonstrate maybe without this in the way. Can we demonstrate that you can't really quite see the light until perhaps about here? I think this one's really quite filled, quite almost to the top. So it is a very good and quite smart design for a filling mechanism, and they call this a bulk filling mechanism. Anyway, big question, how does it write? So this is the Pen BBS, and this is the 355 in the galaxy sort of appearance, and it's an acrylic body. They actually call this the improved design, so I suspect at some point they thought of this mechanism, and since then they've made it better. I think it works quite well. Now this is a bulk filler, and the nib is a round medium. And this one cost me also about 60 New Zealand dollars. Let's have a look at how it stacks up. It's downstrokes and upstrokes, right and left. No skipping, no skipping. Not that much flex, but you can tell that this is kind of the nature of these nibs really. And the wetness test, perhaps as a comparison, have a look at the ones from before, and you'll find maybe this one is perhaps slightly more wet, but again, a very similar level of wetness. Move these to the side. Now the next ones I'll sort of bring as two, because really they're kind of the same pen with different nibs. These are PenBBS's Marshmallow Series, or the 322s. This is the box that they come in. It's not quite as nice as the boxes for the other acrylic pens, and these are, one of their cheaper pens. But it doesn't, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it isn't good. It's still a very good pen. Cardboard box. Now, I won't demonstrate this one, but I'll also show both of them to you. We'll start off with this one. So in Marshmallow 322. Now we don't quite have the same design as the others, so it doesn't really say what model it is. It's a thin demonstrator pen with a cartridge converter, as you can see. Having a closer look at the nib. Now this is the Marshmallow, say Shanghai there. Perhaps if I cleaned up the nib a bit. There we go, Marshmallow Shanghai. Mini food A nib. Just like that. And did I ink this one up? I think it has, yeah, it does have a little bit of ink. Should I see if it saturates a little bit? There we go. Well, we saturated that feed nicely there. Anyway, we'll put this one to the side, and I'll show you this again. The body's exactly the same. It's clear demonstrator pen. Unscrews, and just a closer look at this nib. Now, this says Marshmallow Shanghai as well, but the little hole there is a little bit different. There's a heart-shaped hole, whereas this one is just a round-shaped hole. And this one, I believe, is an extra fine, round extra fine nib. If we prop it up like this, you can see that looks like a little heart right there. What a nice little pen. Let's see how this one writes. So it's the Pen BBS 322 on the Marshmallow fountain pen. And this one has a plastic body, I think. I'm not sure if it's acrylic. Cartridge converter. And this one's the mini food nib, steel. Now these are only $12 each. It's a very sort of affordable, cheap pen. And I guess, judging by the design, you would sort of expect it for this price. Downstrokes and upstrokes, right and left. No skipping, also no skipping. A stiff nib as to be expected, and the wetness test. Perhaps this one's slightly less wet. I plan on giving this one away, so I won't ink it up at this time. Let's put these ones to the side as well. I have two more fountain pens that I'd like to show you from PenBBS, but these ones I also don't plan to ink up, as I'd like to give them away. Now, the more recent designs or recent manufactured fountain pens by PenBBS come in a different package to the ones from before. So we'll have a look at perhaps this one first. Now this one, the PenBBS 350, right here. This one should be the aluminum alloy autumn wind fountain pen. So if I pop this one out, have a gander. Comes in a quite nice plastic box that you probably could change into sort of a pencil case. A nice sort of firm foam. And actually this particular pen can be converted to a ballpoint by changing out the feed into and nib into this. But why would you want to, right? Fountain pens are so much better than ballpoint pens. And let's pluck this one out. And so this Pen BBS feels very good in the hand. This is a aluminum body, aluminum alloy. They call it autumn wind, and I guess it does have a sort of autumn or fall theme to it. Now this one has a fine nib, and if I just pop it out, it's just the build is very nice. Have a look at the nib here, Pen BBS since 2005, fine F, China, very standard one. And I think you would have seen the exact or a very similar kind of nib on the 456, the vacuum filler. And this one is a cartridge converter, as you can well see. It's a very nice, very well built pen. And as you have seen before, the Pen BBS, all of these pens I haven't tinkered around with. Their nibs are exactly the same as when they came out of the box, so they've got a consistency to them. Let's put this one back. And the final pen that I'll show today is this is the Pen BBS, I think 268. Yeah, there we are. So 268 0001. And this is a clear demonstrator vacuum filling fountain pen. It's very similar to the vermouth green one we saw earlier, except that was the 456. So I think this is perhaps a earlier or later iteration. Clear glass, as you can see. 2019. So perhaps this was an earlier one. Let's pop it out. So again, comes in this clear container. They give you an extra feed for some odd reason. That firm foam. Let's pluck it out. So we have here Pen BBS 268. Now this one is again a fine nib, steel, and see all the inner workings, the vacuum piston and the sort of valve system here. Kind of unscrew it. This is quite nice because it really does show, once you dip this into the ink, it forms a water seal down here. When you suck it up like this, well, then you're forming a big vacuum here. And then if you keep it still in here and then you push all the way down, you can actually feel that you're pushing against. There's some kind of give here, and I think maybe it's you're creating a vacuum up here actually, sorry. It's up here that the vacuum's being caused. And once it breaks through this part here, you can feel the give, and then the vacuum's broken and ink rushes all the way up and fills the pen. So this is a very nice sort of demonstrator to demonstrate that that mechanism. So those are all of my Pen BBS fountain pens. I have, as you've well seen, 8 of them, of which really I've inked 5. Of all these pens, the ones I've used the most are these two, the vacuum filler and the bulk filler, in particular this one. These are very good pens. They're just had them for maybe a year or so, or even longer than that now, and they're just so robust. Their filling mechanisms work work very well, and just very good purchases. So if we sort of line them all back up, these inked ones, and the box with this one here. I think if you are interested in fountain pens, you should have a look at the ones offered by Pen BBS. They sell out of an Etsy shop, and I think they only make these pens in quite small batches, you know, a few hundred, maybe low 1,000 or so, and they're always popular and in demand. I think they had some trouble with the Shanghai COVID lockdown and they couldn't ship pens for some months, but based on what I've seen from the Etsy shop recently, that they are shipping now. So, you know, have a look at these pens if you're interested. That's all for today.